How's it going, everybody? I'm your host, Spencer the Guru, welcoming you in to the first Guru Nation podcast episode of 2021. Hope the new year is treating you well. And I tell you what, I'm normally not one for New Year's resolutions and all that crap, but let me tell y'all something. Something that we're really going to work on and strive to improve upon this new year is really upping the game here with the Guru Nation podcast. Get y'all hopefully at least one, maybe 2 episodes a week. Have some new guests, some new topics to really expand upon what we started here, talking about fantasy football, which is still our bread and butter. Don't get me wrong, fantasy football will always be our bread and butter. Football in general, but we're going to try and expand, improve the product this year, just have an overall better experience for you guys. And just wanted to get that out there before we kick off today's episode, which will be discussing the 2020 fantasy football season, just a year in review for you guys. Just kind of get y'all, we can kind of discuss what went down this year, what we could improve upon for next year, what were some things we hit on as well, because we had a lot of good takes this year. I had a really successful year in my leagues personally, won 3 out of 13 leagues. Oh, that's crazy, right? 13 leagues. But yeah, we had a pretty successful year, I'd say, despite the COVID-19 pandemic, all the craziness that went down with that. And we're also going to do a dive into 2021 rankings, as we actually see we have my final PPR rankings from last year. So that's what we're going to touch on first. We're going to talk about some things I observed. I was going to touch on 5 takeaways from the 2020 season. So we're going to do that first here, and then we're going to get into 2021 a little bit, kind of do a sneak peek into my rankings for next season, and then cap it off with a preview of Wildcard Weekend. So really excited to get into that here with you guys for the first episode of the Guru Nation podcast for 2021. Unfortunately, my co-host Josh Como couldn't make it. Got a lot going on in his personal life with work and such, and just moved into a new crib. So yeah, he's got a lot going on, but he'll be back sooner than later. We're going to have him, and like I said, beginning a series of guests we're going to have on throughout. Not going to name drop them all yet. Actually, we're going to just get them all lined up here the next few weeks, and once we do, we'll have them revealed to you guys. So hope y'all are buckled up and ready to go, because this one's going to be fun. We're going to strive for growth each and every episode, this one, it's nothing fancy, no background, no nothing, but we're going to improve the product each show. We're going to get it bigger and better. So by the time the NFL season rolls around, this thing's going to be, you're going to look back at this and be like, damn, this show is really taking off. That's the goal. That's what we're striving to do. So let's dive into it, though, here for this one and touch on our final 2020 fantasy rankings, which, man, looking at them, actually, they had some crazy stuff happen this year, y'all. A lot of the big names did not live up to the hype, but a lot of times it was due to injury, though. For example, like Christian McCaffrey, Michael Thomas, George Kittle, who all had ranked 1 at their respective positions. Looking back on it, I probably should have had Devontae Adams and Travis Kelce ranked first at receiver and tight end, although the majority had Thomas first. Few had Kittle. I was one of the few that had Kittle, because I thought Kittle was going to really bust out this year, which he looked like he would have if it wasn't for his injuries. On a per-game basis, he was not too far behind Kelce, but Kelce is just a different breed. But anyway, yeah, I say my first takeaway of 2020 was just the amount of injuries, y'all. It was insane. Just the amount of injuries. CMC, Saquon. Just imagine you were in a league, it was like an auction league, right? And let's say you took CMC and Saquon, like you made a trade, you traded a bunch of picks to get the first and second overall, or it's an auction league and you spent like all your money on CMC and Saquon. Your season was sunk from day one pretty much. Because CMC got hurt, I believe, like week 2 or week 3. Saquon got hurt week 2. So basically, after 2 weeks, like going into week 2, you're like, man, I got this freaking running back stack. Saquon, he got off to a little bit of a slow start. CMC, I'm good. These 2 are going to carry me. Down you go. Man, that is insane how quickly that ship sunk for those 2. And then it's even Zeke at 3. Zeke really struggled this year, especially down the stretch. He was doing pretty well to start when the Dallas offense was firing on all cylinders with with a healthy Dak Prescott. But man, Zeke just kind of crumbled there down the stretch. So yeah, a lot of names that did not perform. And Lamar Jackson, didn't repeat his success from last year. That was a big miss. Julio had the hamstring troubles overall this moment. Kenny Galladay didn't show out this year, man. I was really high on him, had him ranked 7th, thought he was going to be a WR1. He did not show out. Even DJ Moore, wasn't really injuries. He just wasn't. I mean, he did pretty well in the second half. He wasn't a bust, I'd say, but even he just wasn't quite as good as I was thinking. Just kind of look. Austin Eckler, one that got hurt. Joe Mixon. Man, just imagine if you were in a 12-man league, you took Eckler and Mixon back to back. Brutal, right? I mean, it's crazy the amount of injuries. And of course, Dak with the season-ending ankle injury. Anyone that took him as their quarterback was in trouble there, unless they picked up someone, like a Justin Herbert, who I have as he buried on this list, and not even in the top 30 before the season. They wasn't even expecting Herbert to start this year, but man, he really turned up, man. Justin Herbert, what a great surprise he was. And then at tight end, man, Zach Ertz, what a disappointment. Just not many tight ends showed out this year. It was a really brutal year on the tight end position, even more so than usual. So yeah, I mean, let's say the injuries were definitely a rough patch from 2020. I mean, hopefully 21 will see less injuries, because I mean, man, it was brutal. But anyway, enough about that. I mean, it just kind of was what it was. You just kind of had to adapt and adjust. And I mean, it was kind of like a survival of the fittest this year for fantasy owners. It was just who's going to tough it out? Who's going to be able to navigate these crazy waters? And that brings me into my second point, which was I'd say a lot of my leagues were won through the waiver wire. Definitely more so than trades. I'd say the best fantasy owner this year, which is something I pride myself on, managing the waiver wire. And it seemed to me that the waiver wire was the way to win leagues this year. Because trading is such a crapshoot. I mean, you could do a trade, you think you win by a mile, and then your guy you traded for, the CMC, for example. People trading for CMC. I did it actually in a league. Breaking the Bank Experts League, started by Piggy Bank Picks. I made a trade for Christian McCaffrey, and it straight up didn't work out. I mean, it didn't really hurt me, though, because I traded Kenny Galladay and Chris Carson, who both proceeded to get injured as well. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Trading was not the way to go this year. I mean, maybe if you got lucky, but waiver wire, to me, managing the wire is where the true fantasy warriors were shown. And for those of y'all that navigated the crazy waters, managed the wire, managed to get gems such as Justin Herbert, even Antonio Gibson was on wires in a lot of leagues. Or Cam Akers got dropped in a lot of leagues. J.K. Dobbins, a lot of these guys are kind of like guys that, even some receivers, T. Higgins was a waiver wire gem at receiver, for example. Tight ends, all got Robert Tonyan wasn't even on my preseason list. Guys like that, guys that, waiver wire gems in a year with even more injuries ended up being, in my opinion, the key to success, to winning leagues in 20, in this crazy 20 season, what was affected with COVID. Because I mean, with the COVID stuff, I mean, some weeks guys weren't even, eligible with the COVID, being out, and it was just crazy. Games were being shifted around. I mean, for those that did it, y'all know. I mean, I know some of you guys just decided to opt out, but I know my people did. Guru Nation, we were stronger than ever in 2020. Took home the IG Experts League championship. Really excited about that. That was 6 years in the making. We were not going to quit just because it was, the pandemic. The pandemic serious, obviously not taking that lightly by any means. But the bottom line is, life's not going to stop just because of the pandemic. You got to keep pressing on, you got to keep pushing. And so that's what we did, and we had a great year in 2020, and going to strive for an even greater 2021, which we're about to get into here. I got 3 more points to touch on for the 2020 recap. And my next point will be we're going to focus on running backs. And my point is, once again, just less and less workhorse running backs. Let's check out this list, right? Let's check it out. Let's just go to show you how few workhorse running backs there ended up. Okay, so these guys disappointed. We touched on that already. Like, we had Alvin Kamara, who was a stud. Dalvin Cook, boom. Derrick Henry, big stud, right? And Josh Jacobs, he wasn't as good as we were thinking, but he was a workhorse still. So, these four, right? Nick Chubb missed some time, but when healthy was really good. Here's a perfect example of why taking, especially rookie running backs high, is risky. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, y'all. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, perfect example of the modern NFL in which teams, yeah, they take running backs high, but they're not wanting to trust guys to be true workhorses. The workhorse running back is getting to be rarer and rarer. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a perfect example of that. He's built, kind of small but stout. So I was thinking, I was thinking he'd be able to handle a bigger load than he did, but which early on he seemed to handle a pretty big load. I was thinking, man, he's going to do well, and then it just as the year, it's almost like it got less and less. Then they traded for Le'Veon Bell, who I saw that coming, y'all. I was like, Le'Veon Bell and the Jets is not going to work out. That was one of my biggest bust calls of the year, and I nailed that one, because he did not show out this year and ended up in a committee with Clyde Edwards-Helaire when it was all said and done. But, Clyde Edwards-Helaire had him 10th. Some leagues, they was attempting to even move him up higher, Some rankings had him, over guys like Jacobs, Henry, Eckler. It was getting crazy. But, yeah, Clyde is a perfect example of somebody that just, is this product of the modern NFL. The workhorse back is dying. Even got, Joe Mixon got hurt, but Aaron Jones and Kenyon Drake, they both, Jones did well, Drake's kind of a disappointment. Miles Sanders, these guys, yeah, they were all right, but they weren't true workhorses, though. Jones was solid for the most part, but at the end, A.J. Dillon started to come on. I know for the most part, Jones was good. That's not a great example. But Kenyon Drake, though, was somebody that a lot of people think would be a workhorse. And boom, Chase Edmonds comes up and kind of messes with him. Then Miles Sanders kind of banged up off and on. Didn't really have much outside competition. But still, Chris Carson, all right. But, had a Carlos Hyde as a pest some weeks. Melvin Gordon, did pretty well. Finished as a RB2. But didn't really get going until Phillip Lindsay was having trouble. Most of his big weeks were when Phillip Lindsay was out. When Lindsay was in the lineup, Gordon was a middling flex option. He was barely worth using at that point. James Conner, another letdown. Todd Gurley, both of them crumbled down the stretch with injuries. Glad I stayed away from them. David Johnson picked up a concussion, kind of got going at the end, but still not that good. But I'm going to tell y'all something, a couple guys that I was high on that really trended up and might have workhorse potential. We'll go with these three right here. David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, and the one that really turned up, man, Jonathan Taylor. Oh, my goodness. Taylor capped off of that, oh, by the way, 250-yard performance against Jacksonville, a team that basically quit, though. So, I wouldn't go too crazy over Taylor and draft him over the likes of, let's say, next year, you're in a situation where you could take him over this group. I'd probably still take most of these guys over him. I'd take him over Zeke probably, but the rest of these I'd probably still take over Taylor. But, Taylor, though, next year is going to be in the top 5 conversation, no doubt. He had a really nice season, especially with his second half in which the Colts finally seemed to trust him as their workhorse. And like I said, in the league, that's just less and less workhorse running backs. Taylor is somebody that's obviously a building block in dynasty leagues. And then, yeah, then a guy, all of these ended up kind of crap. I got to say the rookie running backs, though, came on down the stretch. J.K. Dobbins turned up. Cam Akers had some good weeks. Antonio Gibson had a good year overall, double-digit touchdowns. DeAndre Swift picked up, Taylor, of course, and all James Robinson. What, did I even have James Robinson on this list? Scrolling down, yeah, Chris Thompson. I don't even think James 46. James Robinson, he was a late addition, barely even made this list, and he finished 4th or some crap. He was top 5 for the season. It's unbelievable how good James Robinson did. It's just my goodness, just great to see though that he was one of those few workhorses, y'all. If I can count them, I say one James Robinson, 2, Jonathan Taylor. 3, David Montgomery. 4, Nick Chubb. 5, Derrick Henry. 6, Josh Jacobs. 7, Alvin Kamara. 8, I don't even know if I call Zeke a workhorse. 8, I'd say the Panthers backfield when McCaffrey got hurt. Mike Davis acted as a workhorse. So there's really only like about 8 workhorse running backs. Really only a quarter of the league have workhorse running backs. It used to be like half. I mean, there probably would have been more of that if it wasn't for all the injuries. But still, even for next year, there's probably still going to only be 12 to 16 workhorses. And out of those, probably only about half of them are going to be like true fantasy stud RB1s. So that's something. The running back position is getting more and more watered down. I'm starting to think the best strategy for next year might be to, get your anchor RB1. And then for your RB2, just shoot for upside. Shoot for a rookie. Don't worry about grabbing like a Connor or a Gurley or like a washed up RB2. Don't even worry about that. Just take an upside rookie. Obviously you want to anchor it with your stud RB1. And, also I think handcuffing is going to become more important. Like, for those that handcuffed McCaffrey with Davis, that paid off. But a lot of people didn't do that. But for those that did, kudos. So I think handcuffing might actually be more. I used to be like, handcuffing, that's stupid. But I don't know, as we go along, I'm starting to see the perks of it. But anyway, yeah, running backs is definitely going to be a topic we'll be discussing more and more as the months go on. All right, so quarterbacks, y'all. Quarterbacks, I got to say, the dual threat quarterback trend continued this season. Because, man, Kyler Murray, just like I was thinking, popped off, had a great season, finished top 5. I believe he actually ended up QB3. Like I was thinking, the only ones that finished above him were Josh Allen, another one of those dual threat quarterbacks. And I got to own up to this one. Y'all completely missed on Aaron Rodgers. I was thinking Rodgers wouldn't do well this year, but he proved me wrong in every which way. My goodness. What a great season. Almost like our league MVP. And so anyway, but that's kind of an exception. But for the most part, Rodgers, an old guy. Tom Brady had a good year despite his advanced age. Drew Brees did fairly well despite his. The older quarterbacks are still okay, but they're not the upside of these running guys. For example, Deshaun Watson. I know his team was bad, but man, Deshaun Watson was good this year. Russell Wilson, before his second half collapse, was having a great season. It was the let Russ cook movement. And then boom, his season just kind of fell off. But the bottom line is, though, these kind of quarterbacks, like Patrick Mahomes. I wouldn't say he's like a true dual threat, but like he can run when needed. Lamar Jackson, as we said, started off bad, but he turned up down the stretch. So yeah, I still say for next year, dual threat quarterbacks are going to make up the majority of the QB1s. Other guys that are going to be on the map, assuming Drew Brees retires, which it's looking like he will. This his age, the injuries, it's catching up to him. He's not what he used to be. So Taysom Hill, I'm thinking, could end up in this mix. We got a little free trial, I guess, of Taysom Hill. He played 4 games. Got a little teaser, and he did pretty well in those 4 games. So I think he could be in the QB1 mix. Also, Jalen Hurts, if the Eagles decide to stick with him. You never know, though, with stupid Doug Peterson if he stays the coach. Man, what a disaster in Week 17 against Washington. We could do a whole show on that, just how stupid that was. But anyway, yeah, Jalen Hurts, if given the opportunity due to his mobility, could be in here. But yeah, even a guy like Ryan Tannehill, Tannehill, he's not like a runner like Lamar, Kyler Murray, but he can run when needed, picks up rushing touchdowns. Hey, Cam Newton may have been in the mix if he wasn't such an incompetent passer, But the point is, though, quarterbacks that have a rushing floor tend to be more valuable a lot of times. It usually ends up in that way. Like, a running guy, like, even Lamar Jackson, when he was like not doing that good, was still about the same as like Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan, it's just, he doesn't run, so when he sucks as a passer, he really sucks. Like, he really kills you. When Lamar sucks as a passer, well, at least you get his rushing. So yeah, that trend is continuing, y'all. Keep an eye on these mobile quarterbacks. More and more of them are coming into this league. It's becoming more and more of a trend. It's not a fluke. It's not a flash in the pan. It's a real thing. So definitely keep an eye on that heading into 2021. And then my last point is just the fact that offenses, despite this pandemic season, offenses exploded for the most part. Because, I mean, yeah, we had a lot of big names go down on offense for sure. You know, like I was looking at, like I said, 3 of the top 4 of their number ones at the positions here went down. But it didn't matter. Offenses were still putting up tons of points this year. I mean, offenses were king in 2020. And I mean, defenses, we're thinking offenses had it rough in 2020. I think defenses had it worse because, I mean, without the practice, with limited practice, no preseason, when were guys able to practice tackling? You know, we had seemed like a lot of missed tackles this season, just a lot of sloppy defense, which to me really allowed, it was fun for fantasy owners because it allowed a lot of guys to break out and emerge this season. You know, I mean, that's just looking at the list. It's like, man, I look at some of these names. Like, I got Stephon Diggs, DK Metcalf, Scary Terry. This example of a guy that's just like, man, these guys really exploded this year. And I mean, I'm not saying it was a fluke. I'm not saying they didn't earn it, but I mean, I just feel like the defenses is kind of a down year in general for defenses. But that's just kind of the way the league's going. You know, the league loves offense. You know, fantasy football is a big time industry. You know, we talk about this stuff, and the league hears it. You know, we're not just. I mean, we talk about it, and I'm somebody's listening, and I think as a result, the league is shifting more and more to be more conducive to higher scoring games. I'm not saying defense, I mean, especially in the postseason, you know, the defense wins championships mantra will likely always be a thing, but a lot of times in the regular season, offense is taking over, and I would expect next year for probably even more offense, considering all these guys are getting back healthy. It will be interesting, though, when they have preseason, though. Maybe the defenses will be able to catch back up. Maybe we'll see kind of a swing back to norm as far as an offense is not always exploding. Well, I'm not saying every offense. I mean, they had some offenses that were really incompetent, but the ones that were firing away were really, really good. So yeah, that's 2020 in a nutshell. I mean, it was a wild year, but we got through it. It was fun, and we're actually going to continue to fun with a playoff fantasy league. I was invited by my man Bogard Scott Free of the GMM Network. Shout out to him, the Rum Boys over there do great stuff, man. Really love their YouTube channel. Shout out to Rum Boys, Robbie, Justin from Clock Management, Jim O.D. Icon, Miles Peacock, just a great group over there. And we started a little league. We did a playoff fantasy league, 7-man league, little buy-in on the line. So we're gonna keep that going. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We picked teams, you know, of just the playoff teams, and it's just gonna be like survival of the fittest. You know, we're gonna lose people. I tried to load up on Saints because I think my Saints are gonna make a deep run. And so, yeah, we're going to just see how that goes. It'll be my first time doing, like, an actual playoff fantasy league. I've done, like, DFS type things for the playoffs, but never, like, an actual type league. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun there. So let's now get into 2021 rankings before we get to our Wildcard Weekend predictions. Let's dive in here. Early 2021 talk. So I just decided to rank, you know, running backs, receivers, quarterbacks, tight end. Just do a little bit. I didn't want to get too into it because, I mean, with the draft and free agency, I didn't want to do like a top 50 and then it's going to be all this would be completely different in a couple months. Probably wait till like March to do that. But I definitely wanted to kind of get at least a rough draft going at each position just to kind of, you know, get ahead of the competition. Y'all, getting ahead is key to success in this industry with so many people, you know, striving to get better, you know, so many people. Like, it's a competitive industry, and us at Guru Nation, we want to get the edge here. We want to start early, not late, so that's what we're doing. All right, so diving into 2021, just to start at the running back position, I think CMC is going to reclaim the throne. I really do, you know. I really think he's going to get back up there because, I mean, on a per-game basis, his average per-game basis, he was still the top running back. I know it wasn't that many games, but in the games he played, he was still the top dog, you know. Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry all had great seasons, all could make a case to be next year's #1 overall pick. But as of now, I've got my money on CMC. We'll see how the offseason goes. Joe Brady, though, might be on his way out in Carolina. He's getting a lot of attention from different teams. So if the Panthers, it'll kind of depend on who the new Panthers OC is. If Brady goes, if they don't get the right OC, and I might not keep McCaffrey at number one. If they hire some idiot, I don't know. I don't know who they're going to hire. They might hire, although, CMC's the type, I feel like he could thrive in almost any system, but we're going to have to keep an eye on that, though, for sure. See who ends up the OC there, because it's looking like Joe Brady's going to be on his way out. He's a hot commodity. He's going to probably be a head coach of somebody next season. But anyway, yeah, as of now, though, I'd take McCaffrey first. Kamara second. Taysom Hill takes over at quarterback next year. I don't know how that could hurt Kamara, because in the games Taysom was starting, Kamara did not really live up to his ceiling, especially in the receiving game. It just didn't really like, I don't know, it just didn't really like pop for him. But anyway, I think he'll be just fine. They'll have a whole offseason to work together. Be the same, for like the Sean Payton and stuff will still be there. The core group minus Drew Brees should still be intact. So I still like Kamara as an elite RB1 next year. Could make a case for number one. Then of course Dalvin and Derrick Henry great as well. Derrick Henry though to me is definitely fourth, because I feel like leading the league in carries now 2 years in a row. There's 2,000 yards this year. Big ups to King Henry, but I just don't think he's quite there. And he doesn't catch, and coming off back-to-back years like that, I don't think he's gonna make the number one pick. But I still think he's rock solid. He's very durable. I still think he's got 1 or 2 elite years left in the tank before he kind of starts to to decline. But I'm confident in Derrick Henry next year, though. I think if I'm picking four, then these three are going, yeah, give me King Henry. Like, I won't be mad at it. Even in PPR, he's that good. And then after that, we got Saquon, Nick Chubb, Jonathan Taylor. This could all change. And this is very much dependent on Saquon's rehab. This is assuming a completely clean and smooth rehab, which, we don't know yet how that's going to all end up. Saquon might fall out the top 10. If it comes out that he's battling, if he has like a setback or something, or an infection, we don't know. This is all speculation. We're just thinking out loud right now. But barring a clean recovery, I think Saquon could easily jump back into the top 5, because Saquon's a different breed, y'all. I know a lot of times coming off a torn ACL, the year after can be rough, but Saquon, y'all, if anyone can do it, it's Saquon. We saw Adrian Peterson do it, and I feel like Saquon's kind of like that type, kind of like he's wired different. He's a different breed. So to me, if Saquon's available in the mid to late first with a clean recovery, I'm taking him there all day, every day. You can say it's a risk or whatever, but hey, all these guys in a way are risk. CMC was first overall this year, ended up hurt over half the year. And no one viewed him as a risk. So it's like, man, considering the upside of Saquon, if Saquon's right, he could be number one. He's got that kind of ceiling. So yeah, definitely don't count Saquon out. And then Nick Chubb, great finish to the year. Came back from his little knee injury and finished strong, showing that he's a rock solid RB1. Jonathan Taylor with his torrid stretch run, making a case to be a top 5 overall pick. David Montgomery, y'all, another one that really burst onto the scene in the second half. His receiving chops, man, he really upped his receiving work, improved as a runner. Like, man, really impressed what I saw from him. And then the kind of rest here for the RB1 group, Josh Jacobs, still have him 9th. However, Josh Jacobs just got a DUI, and I don't know what could happen with that. He sounds like he's not being the most responsible. Hopefully he'll be all right by next year. But man, it's like, I don't know. Josh Jacobs, didn't really quite live up to expectations. And if he's got baggage with the law, he might kind of fall out. He might be someone that continues to trend down. So going into this season we had him 6th, and going into next year 9th. And it might be lower. Jacobs. If I have Jacobs in Dynasty, I'm a little bit nervous. I'd be a little bit nervous. Zeke could bounce back. Especially if they re-sign Dak Prescott. If they don't re-sign Dak, if it's if it's kind of a rebuilding thing, it might be. I don't know about Zeke, but they re-sign Dak and have the offense popping. I think Zeke could maybe climb even higher. Austin Eckler in PPR, man, I'd love to rank him higher, but it's just, I don't know, to me, he just doesn't have the frame to hold up as a workhorse. He's going to either have to be somewhat of a committee back, or if they try to make him the workhorse, he's probably going to get hurt. I love Austin Eckler. Like, he's a warrior. Like, he's a great guy. He's a grinder, but it's just like, for fantasy, though, can I really trust this guy as my RB1? I tried it in a couple leagues this year, got burned just because, he got hurt. He didn't hold up. So it's just it was a pandemic season, kind of a weird off season, weird circumstances, So I'd say he's a low end RB1 in PPR, low end. Don't reach for him, but if he would fall to you, like if he in the second round, he took a receiver first, and he took like a Tyreek Hill or a Diggs, and Eckler makes it back to you. I wouldn't sneeze at that. That'd be a decent start, but I definitely wouldn't recommend taking him as a first rounder next year because I just feel like he's just not quite durable enough. And then you got J. Rob, Aaron Jones, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Aaron Jones a free agent. You're gonna have to see where he ends up. James Robinson. With Trevor Lawrence most likely under center. James Robinson. That's gonna be a huge relief for him. James Robinson, I think, could make an even bigger leap. He could be even higher. It's just I don't know. I just with Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence, I have a feeling they'll probably want to throw it more. I don't know, and they might sign another running back. It'll probably be a completely new coaching staff. Like we don't know what's going to happen with all that. And then Clyde, I think he'll be solid. I think he'll get more work in his second year. Gibson should do good again. J.K. Dobbins will continue to grow. Miles Sanders, hopefully, he'll shake back. DeAndre Swift is somebody that I'm a little iffy about. I think it's going to depend on who the Lions get as their coach. Like I was really high on Swift heading into this year. Still like him for dynasty. I still think he's got a chance to break that Lions backfield curse. But as of now, I don't have him very high because who's going to want to go coach Detroit? Detroit is just kind of a laughing stock of an organization. If they don't get the right coaching staff, it might be another dull year for their offense. And I know a lot of people are high on Swift after his finish of the season, but in that offense, his upside's capped. But if they do the right things this offseason, I'll definitely move him up. But as of now, I'm not that high on Swift for redraft next year. We'll have to see though. We'll have to see. Joe Mixon hopefully will be back, and then Cam Akers another name to keep an eye on. He really popped off down the stretch. So yeah, that running back position very interesting. Receivers, Adams and Hill, no doubt the top two receivers, both first rounders for sure. I'd say. And this is where it starts to get tricky. Stephon Diggs and Mike Thomas. I was going back and forth who to rank third, who to rank fourth. Taysom Hill, when he had Michael Thomas, they had a good connection. So I think Michael Thomas, assuming he's healthy next year, will get back to being in the top five. Not worried about that at all. Diggs had a career year this year, obviously, with Buffalo. Should do really well again. I don't know if he'll do quite as well, but he'll still do really well. D Hop, the nuclear option, man, Nuke Hopkins, really, really good, And I think Kyler Murray will take another step forward this year in 21. So Hopkins should once again be an elite WR1. Calvin Ridley, y'all have him finally leapfrogging Julio Jones for sure. He outproduced him this year, and I think that's the sign of the future, man. Calvin Ridley's their WR1 chance. They might even trade Julio. DK Metcalf on the rise. He cemented himself as a WR1. Keenan Allen with Justin Herbert's locked in. Jets Justin Jefferson really on the rise there in Minnesota. I'd say he's established himself now as their number one over Adam Thielen, who's somebody that I wasn't real high on this year. He had a good year though, but a lot of that was due to touchdowns. Justin Jefferson was the better receiver on a yards and catch basis, and I think that trend will continue next season. Scary Terry, somebody, if Washington can upgrade their QB situation, Scary Terry, I think, will jump into the top 10. Not sure though what's going to happen there. Might have to move him down because, A.J. Brown, really good, with Tannehill in there. He's going to be a solid option once again. A-Rob, I'm not sure where he's going to go. He's a free agent, but if he lands in a good spot, could end up higher. Julio, Mike Evans, guys are getting a little older, kind of a little nervous about them. Chris Godwin, another one's a free agent. Kenny Galladay, not sure what these guys are going to end up. Depend on free agency. Deontay Johnson really emerged this year in Pittsburgh. Should be a solid WR2 next year. Lockett and Woods should be all right. And Lockett just once again didn't really do that great in the second half, but I mean, he had a big first half, so I mean, his season numbers are still solid. Woods, somebody that's, was just solid in PPR. And then, yeah, so we got now quarterbacks. Pat Mahomes obviously leads the pack. Kyler Murray, I think, will continue to grow. Josh Allen should continue to grow. To me, these are the clear top three. Deshaun Watson, though, y'all, Deshaun Watson, really interesting. Especially if he would get traded. If he gets traded out of Houston and lands on a good offense like my Saints, man, would that be awesome, man. That would be freaking lit. Imagine Deshaun Watson in the black and gold. Oh my goodness. Michael Thomas, boom. Alvin Kamara, #1 for show. Like, man, just imagine, y'all. Just imagine. I love Taysom Hill. I mean, shoot, I have him top 10 if he would get the job, but man, if we have a chance to get Deshaun Watson, like, do it. Figure out a way to get him on this team. That would be insane. If I'm a fan of any team, though, I'm clamoring to get Deshaun Watson. I mean, because he came out, I think it was today or yesterday, he recently said that he was pissed with, like, the Texas management because they did not go to him about hiring a new GM. Apparently, his preferred head coaching choice is Eric Bieniemy, the Chiefs OC. Apparently, they're not even interviewing him. So it's just like, man, it's like, what are they doing? It's like you've got arguably you have one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, and you're treating him like he's just some average Joe, just another guy. No, he's not another guy. He's Deshaun freaking Watson, and he deserves to have a little bit of say in what goes down in your team. Like, I'm almost like Drew Brees, I'm almost certain has a little bit of say in what goes on with the Saints. Like, come on. I mean, Deshaun Watson, respect the man or trade him, but we'll see. That'll be a topic that'll might get really interesting here this offseason. A lot of quarterbacks could be on the move. Matt Ryan, Matt Stafford, Carson Wentz. Notice I didn't put any of them here. I mean, they all might get traded, but we'll see what happens. I mean, it's just, Herbert, somebody I definitely think I could move up depending on who they hire. They fired their coach, Anthony Lynn fired, so not sure what's going to happen with that. Dak Prescott, got to keep an eye on the rehab. Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, don't have them very high. I mean, it's just because they're getting old, man, especially Brady. Brady's going to be like 44 next year. I mean, that is freaking old to be quarterbacking. I mean, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the GOAT or whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't care, man. You're too old. Like, he might, with all the weapons, I wouldn't say don't draft him, but, I'd probably rather a guy like Jalen Hurts, and then these guys, Baker and Kirk Cousins, turned up down the stretch. Wouldn't really expect them to stay this high because I'm sure they'll have guys emerging. But, they did do pretty well, though. I mean, they've got weapons. So, but, yeah, definitely a lot of intriguing options. Tight ends. Well, we'll go through this quick, because, I mean, all these guys, none of these are very exciting. Kelsey, Kittle, Waller, all, of course, elite options. Mark Andrews should be solid next year as well. This is where it gets tricky, though. But, I mean, TJ Hawkinson was actually pretty solid last year. Noah Fant, neither one were amazing, but they both did fairly well. And then Logan Thomas was somebody that really turned up. If Washington gets the right quarterback, I could see Logan Thomas being a top 5 tight end next season. Mike Gesicki, someone that emerged down the stretch. Robert Tonyan did well. Dallas Goedert, man, I was thinking he would really take advantage of no Zach Ertz, but it didn't really work out. And then when Ertz came back, they were both duds. Hopefully Ertz will get dealt. If so, I'll probably have to move Goddard up a little bit. Hunter Henry, a free agent. Could be interesting if he lands in the right spot, but I mean, he just does not look very explosive. He had a lot of major injuries early in his career. It looks like a lot of his explosiveness might be sapped, unfortunately. And then, Evan Ingram, another one, a lot of upside, but didn't really, I don't know, doesn't really pan out. Eric Ebron, if he stays with Pittsburgh, solid, he was kind of a stable floor guy there in that offense. And Gronk, all right, nothing special, but I mean, if he would come back next year, he's like, hey, somebody kind of have to consider in just a barren position. Now, this is a name I really like for next year, Irv Smith, y'all. Irv Smith is somebody that really kind of, he's somebody I had my eye on all year. I was thinking, is this guy going to break out? And sure enough, down the stretch, he had a nice stretch run. So I'm thinking that the Vikings will finally just cut Kyle Rudolph and go with Irv as their primary tight end. This guy looks the part. It'll be his 3rd year. He's somebody for Dynasty I really like, because I think he could easily leapfrog a lot of these guys and end up potential top 5. So keep an eye on Irv Smith for sure. All right, so that's pretty deep dive into 21 actually, man. A lot of it'll just be kind of like smoke or whatever, because a lot of this will change, but definitely all, like I said, always good to try to get that early leg up on the competition. So now to cap this thing off, let's preview Wild Card Weekend. Let's do it. This is my full playoff bracket for y'all. I got it here. The Saints. Got my Saints winning the Super Bowl. Y'all can say it's biased. Yeah, whatever. I really believe in my heart and soul this is our year. Maybe I'll be proven wrong again. Y'all can all laugh at me and say Guru's a big fool, but hey, I'm going down with my team, baby. Let's go Saints. Who dat nation? We're winning it all this year. But anyway, let's preview these 6 games. A wild card weekend in the works. 6 games on tap. We'll start with the first one in the AFC, Bills Colts. I tell y'all what, I think this is the lock of the week. A lot of people are saying that the Colts could upset them. I don't see it though. I really don't. Because I know the Colts run the ball, right? With Jonathan Taylor, they play defense, but I really don't think they're gonna. Neither one of those things scare me enough to see. They don't do either one of those things better enough than the Bills do passing. Like the Bills' passing game is so much better than the Colts. Josh Allen, probably be the MVP runner-up. The way he's playing ball right now, I don't see the Colts defense rattling him at all. And the Bills' defense has actually done better down the stretch. The Bills' defense was expected to be really good. Didn't start off too well. Had a rough patch in like the midpoint of the season, but man, they've really turned up though down the stretch. And I just don't see the Colts being able to hang with them. I really don't. I really don't see it. Phillip Rivers is very old, does not look very good. I think this is his last year. Assuming he gets pummeled by the Bills, which I think he will. I think Phillip Rivers is like, adios, y'all. I'm out of here. I think the Colts might be trading for Carson Wentz this offseason due to the Frank Reich connections. I really don't see them wanting to hang on to Phillip Rivers, and I really don't see Phillip Rivers wanting to come back. So I think Bills win this one easily by double digits and move on next week to I think it'll be to face the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers, they kind of, they not a team I'm that high on, but man, the poor Browns have just had such rotten luck with COVID. They have been the team that seems to have been affected the most by COVID. It's unbelievable how much they've been affected. But I feel like it's going to be a little too much to overcome. They struggled with Pittsburgh's backups last week, so I don't see how they're going to be able to take down Pittsburgh this week at full strength at Heinz Field. It's just no, I don't see it happening. I think it'll be a fairly close game. I think Baker and Nick Chubb and stuff will keep them in it. I just don't think Cleveland's defense is good enough. I don't think they're good enough to stop a savvy veteran like Big Ben. I know Big Ben hadn't looked good this year, but I still think he's got a little something left in the tank. So I'm going to have to go with Pittsburgh to advance. And this is the game I'm really watching, the AFC. Baltimore, Tennessee. I think that's going to be a really good game. A rematch of, I believe it was the divisional round last year in which Tennessee upset Baltimore, made Lamar Jackson a one and done. I don't think that happens this year, though. I think Baltimore and Lamar get their revenge on Tennessee this year. They're playing really good football right now. Lamar's playing well. He's not throwing it great, but he's doing enough. He's Hollywood Brown's done better down the stretch. Andrews, he's getting it. It's kind of reminding me of last year. It's not a great passing attack, but it's enough. And the running game's finally come around. J.K. Dobbins has finally gotten in gear. He had a rough start as a rookie, and then Mark Ingram wasn't up to par, so their running game was terrible for a while. They could just key in on Lamar, but now that Dobbins is back, Lamar's got his wingman. So between those two, that running game is going to be hard to stop. I see Baltimore winning this one, probably by about 10. I think they'll move on. Tennessee's defense is not very good. If they're giving up all kind of stuff to Baltimore, it's going to be hard for them to establish the run with Derrick Henry. They'll probably try to control the clock and such, but I still think Baltimore will be able to pull this off and move on to face the Chiefs next week. All right, NFC, My Saints taking on the Bears. And honestly, y'all, I'm not scared of this matchup. The more I think about it, the Bears are just not that good. I mean, they shouldn't even be in it, man. I mean, my Saints should have a bye week this week. We always seem to get the short end of the stick as far as that. The year we get 2 seed this year, then they decide that, oh, we're only one team gets a bye week. But anyway, enough about that. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. But anyway, I don't think I'm not scared. I don't think it's going to be a repeat of last year. I don't think it's going to be a one and done or any of that sort. Because the Bears are not good. They should not be in the playoffs. Their offense is been better, but it's still, I mean, Mitchell Trubisky, I'm not scared of him. And some people have hinted at, oh, they might bring in Nick Foles. But I mean, Nick Foles has sucked this year. I mean, I don't think he's going to be able to be some savior for them. I mean, I get it. They played the Saints tough earlier in the year. It went to overtime, but it was in their place. And at that point, the Saints were not playing very well. Had injuries. Like, it's just one of those bad circumstance games, and the Saints still won. So, I mean, with all that stacked against the Saints, I mean, this time we have the players, Thomas will be back, Kamara's supposed to be ready. I mean, so we're going to have all hands on deck. So, I mean, I really don't see this being that close. Assuming the Saints take care of the football, don't turn it over, don't do anything stupid, which I don't think they will, being that Drew Brees is older and wiser. That's something that even though he might not have quite the same arm strength, he's definitely, more efficient and more aware of not throwing as many interceptions. Like that's something he's really cut down on his number of interceptions. So I feel like as long as the Saints running game and defense complements each other, Brees can kind of just sit back and just do what he needs to do to win. He won't really have to be the hero. And so that's why I have the Saints making a deep run. I feel like we've got all the pieces intact to complement the passing game, which, like I said, won't really need to be what it used to be. But yeah, I think they'll win easily over the Bears and take on the Seahawks next week, who I have edging out the Rams. Because listen, I don't care who's under center for LA. I don't care if it's Jared Goff or the can't even think of his name right now. The Wolf Man, I think they were calling him, the dude that could run a little bit, did pretty good, but yeah, I don't care who it is. I see Seattle winning this one at home. Seattle plays better at home. I know they've struggled down the stretch, but to me, they catch a huge break right now against the Rams. The Rams are just not playing well. I mean, the Rams lost to the freaking Jets, y'all. Let's not forget that. The Rams lost to the freaking New York Jets. Gave the Jets their first win of the year. Like, how embarrassing is that? I mean, Sean McVay and those guys are just, to me, they're treading water, and it's not pretty. I mean, they got lucky that Kyler Murray was playing hurt last week. If Kyler Murray would have been healthy, I think they'd have won, and the Rams would be sitting on the couch right now. So, I mean, the Rams do have a really good defense. So, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if they win, especially if they won the turnover battle. But Seattle's a much more talented team, and with Russell Wilson being the seasoned veteran that he is, I'm not betting against them. And in the last game, Tampa at the Washington football team. Man, as much as I want to pick Washington, because I think Washington could possibly rattle Tom Brady with their ferocious pass rush. Chase Young came out and said, I want Tom. I want Tom. I'm after Tom Brady. So I respect his tenacity, but I don't think the offense is going to be able to put up much at all. I mean, with Alex Smith dealing with the calf injury, I just got a feel for the man. I mean, he is a warrior, worked his ass off to get to where he's at, but I just don't think it'll be enough, I mean, because honestly, they shouldn't even be in the playoffs. That was the worst division in the history of the NFL. And so, I mean, yeah, it's a feel-good story for Alex, but he might not even play all the snaps. They're already talking that Taylor Heineke, I believe his name, might get in there. So if that's the case, I just don't see Washington offense being able to move the ball, even if the defense plays really well. Tom will probably if he just throws a couple touchdowns, that's probably all he'll need. It'll probably be like a pretty low-scoring game, one of those old-school type Tom Brady gritty wins type thing. And so I think he'll advance, and I think he'll advance even more because I think there's a good chance they could beat Green Bay in the next round. I mean, with Aaron Rodgers not having his left tackle, I think he could be in trouble. I mean, like the last time they played each other this year, and I don't know if y'all remember this, but Tampa Bay killed Green Bay was on a Sunday afternoon game. They gave him the business. I mean, it was Rodgers' worst game of the year. So while I don't think Rodgers will stink it up like that again in the playoffs, I could definitely see them falling though. 'Cause, I mean, Tom Brady is determined. I mean, this might be his last year for all we know. It definitely ain't Drew Brees' last year, but it could be Brady's as well. I mean, we don't know. So I mean, he's gonna be determined, but. Anyway, yeah, that's the wild card weekend scoop. We'll see how it ends up. Should be a lot of fun. A triple header, first time in league history. We'll see how it ends up. And for those of y'all like myself, those fantasy degenerates out there playing playoff fantasy leagues, good luck to y'all. And for those of y'all more normal folk that are just waiting for next NFL season, we'll have a lot more off-season content in the works. Like I said, new stuff, new guests lined up. So we're gonna be ready. All right, appreciate everyone that tuned in. This one went a little long, but it's all good. Had fun getting back in the groove here, chopping it up. I'm gonna have Josh back hopefully next week, and we're gonna get this thing even better. Like I said, we're gonna improve each show. The goal is to have each show be a little bit better than the last. So that's what we're going to strive for. So, all right, Guru Nation, really appreciate everyone that tuned in. This is Spencer the Guru signing off. Peace.